Welcome to the Skin Bliss podcast, where we break down skincare with science, not hype.
Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're looking directly at you, the learner.
Yeah, you're here because you're insanely curious.
Right, and you really value your time.
Yeah.
You want to get straight to the heart of the matter without feeling, overwhelmed by an endless sea of information.
Exactly.
And today's topic is one that brings a lot of frustration, a lot of confusion, and frankly, a whole lot of irritation. Literally.
Absolutely.
We are talking about the undisputed heavyweight champion of the skincare world, the so-called holy grail of well-aging and acne treatment, Tretinoin.
The big one.
Yeah, the big one. More specifically, we're talking about the extremely frustrating reality of what happens when this miracle ingredient simply refuses to work for your skin.
It's a surprisingly common experience. Yet, if you scroll through social media, no one really talks about the failure rate.
No, never.
We just see the glowing glass skin success stories. But today, we are pulling our insights from a phenomenal deep dive series called Retinoid Reality, and we are focusing entirely on the third installment of this series, which is pointedly titled, Giving Up on Tretinoin.
That title alone is just a breath of fresh air.
It really is.
Our mission for this deep dive is clear. We are going to break down the highly accessible science of exactly why tretinoin fails some people on a cellular level.
Right.
We'll explore the incredibly powerful, scientifically backed alternatives that are out there waiting for you. And most importantly, we are going to highlight exactly what you should do differently tonight if your skin barrier is currently crying out for help.
Tonight.
Yes.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I want to reassure you right out of the gate. Failing at tretinoin does not mean that retinoids as a whole are completely off the table for you.
Not at all.
And it definitely, absolutely does not mean your skin is hopeless.
The sense of defeat people feel is profound, but it is crucial to start by validating that experience.
Yeah.
The biological realities of why tretinoin fails are very real. Let's look at the specific factors outlined in the clinical discussions. First, we have persistent irritation. And we're talking about irritation that refuses to subside even after months of slow, careful introduction. Right?
Exactly. The old dermatological advice is to just push through the retinization phase, but for a specific subset of the population.
That phase simply never ends, just to clarify that term, because it gets thrown around a lot. The retinization phase is that initial adjustment period where your skin is supposed to be getting used to the rapid cell turnover.
Yes, that's the
So you slowly introduce it once a week, you buffer it with moisturizers, you do everything right. But for some people, months later, their skin is still screaming.
The underlying mechanism there is a severe barrier disruption that never fully recovers while using the product.
Wow.
Think of your skin barrier, specifically the stratum corneum, as your body's shield. When tretinoin continuously compromises that shield faster than your biology can repair it, you are left chronically vulnerable to transepidermal water loss and environmental pathogens.
I always like to visualize the skin barrier as a brick wall. Like the skin cells are the bricks.
Right.
And the lipids and ceramides are the mortar holding it all together. Are you saying that for some people, tretinoin is essentially dissolving the mortar faster than the skin can mix a new batch?
That is a highly accurate way to visualize it. The cellular turnover is happening so rapidly that the lipid matrix, the mortar, cannot be adequately synthesized to keep the wall strong.
That makes so much sense.
Then there's the issue of hormonal acne. The research points out that retinoids simply cannot address hormonal acne on their own.
Because it's an internal trigger.
Exactly. It's a systemic cascade. Trying to fix an internal hormonal surge purely with a topical hammer like tretinoin often just leads to a damaged, inflamed barrier layered right on top of the hormonal breakouts.
Which is the worst of both worlds.
What's fascinating here is that some skin types genuinely just do not tolerate tretinoin due to their unique inflammatory responses. The science shows us it is a matter of individual biology and genetic predispositions, plain and simple. It is not a lack of effort on your part.
That is such a relief to hear. If your biology just says no, you have to listen to it instead of trying to force it.
Absolutely.
So if we are accepting that tretinoin is off the table, what's the game plan? We don't have to abandon the entire family of ingredients right away, do we?
No, we can take a step-down approach. Let's look at some gentler retinoid alternatives.
The first major pivot the researchers suggest is to something called retinal. That's retinaldehyde with an A.
Right. The science behind why retinaldehyde works so well as an alternative is quite elegant. To understand it, You have to understand the conversion process that happens within your skin.
Okay.
Your skin cells can only actually utilize retinoic acid.
Yeah.
Tretinoin literally is retinoic acid, which is why it is so overwhelmingly potent and often so irritating.
It hits the skin and binds directly to the cellular receptors immediately.
Yes.
It's like drinking a straight double shot of espresso on an empty stomach. You're going to feel it instantly, and it might make you incredibly jittery.
That's a great analogy. Now compare that to standard over-the-counter retinol with an O.
Right, the one in all the drugstore creams.
Standard retinol is 2 metabolic steps away from becoming retinoic acid. Your skin's enzymes have to convert it first into retinaldehyde and then convert it again into retinoic acid before it can bind to those receptors.
No, I see.
Retinol, with an A, sits right in the middle. It is only one single step away.
So it is the perfect middle ground. It doesn't jolt your system like the straight espresso of tretinoin, but it is much more direct and efficient than standard retinol.
Precisely.
But if I'm standing in the skincare aisle, how do I know I'm buying the right strength? Is there a sweet spot I should look for to get the benefits without triggering that same barrier breakdown?
The clinical data strongly suggests looking for a concentration between 0.05% and 0.1% to start.
Okay, 0.05 to 0.1.
Studies show that retinol at those specific concentrations offers comparable well-aging and cell turnover benefits to low-dose tretinoin, but with a significantly lower incidence of erythema, which is redness and peeling. You get the efficacy without the aggressive barrier compromise.
Okay, so retinol is great for someone looking for anti-aging benefits with a bit less irritation. But what if my primary battle isn't necessarily fine lines?
Right.
What if I'm dealing with stubborn breakouts and retinol just doesn't feel like the right fit? Is there a middle ground for acne sufferers?
There is.
That brings us to our second alternative, Adapalene. You might know it by its common brand name, Differin.
Very popular.
Yeah, this is an FDA-approved over-the-counter retinoid that was specifically formulated to treat acne.
Adapalene is structurally distinct from other retinoids. The molecule itself is much more stable than tretinoin, meaning it does not degrade as quickly when exposed to light, and its formulation is inherently far less irritating.
Which is huge.
It operates by targeting the specific retinoic acid receptors in the skin that are most heavily involved in the acne process, specifically addressing the abnormal shedding of skin cells inside the pore, making it highly efficient for clearing congestion.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because Adapalene is so heavily marketed to teenagers and young adults as this blemish-busting gel, it is often completely overlooked by people who are seeking anti-aging benefits.
All the time.
People think it is just an acne treatment. Does it actually do anything for fine lines or collagen production?
It is incredibly unfortunate that its marketing has pigeonholed it, because the well-aging data is actually there.
Really?
Because it is a true retinoid, it still accelerates cell turnover. It still promotes that healthier, more youthful skin function. Several long-term studies have shown that Adapalene effectively reduces the appearance of photo damage and fine lines, just like the other members of the retinoid family, but with a profile that asks significantly less of your skin's lipid barrier.
Okay, so we've looked at stepping down within the retinoid family, like weaning onto a gentler version. But what if someone listening right now has skin that is so angry, so reactive, that even the words retinol and Adapalene sound too intimidating?
That happens a lot.
The deep dive material gives us a completely different route. Let's pivot to the non-retinoid MVPs. These are entirely different classes of ingredients. The first one getting a lot of attention is azelaic acid.
Azelaic acid is truly remarkable because it operates through completely different biological pathways than retinoids. It is actually a dicarboxylic acid naturally produced by yeast that lives on normal skin.
Interesting.
Primarily, it possesses potent anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial properties. It actively calms the skin's immune response down rather than revving the cellular turnover up. Furthermore, it has a specific mechanism that inhibits tyrosinase.
Tyrosinase being the enzyme that triggers melanin production, right? The thing that causes dark spots.
Correct. By inhibiting that enzyme, azelaic acid actively brightens the skin and evens out texture.
Oh.
The specific use cases for this ingredient are remarkably targeted to the exact problems tretinoin often aggravates. Clinical trials note it is highly effective for managing rosacea, which is fundamentally an inflammatory condition. It is excellent for hormonal acne, which we established tretinoin struggles to manage alone. And it is incredibly effective for PIH, or post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation.
Those are the stubborn, flat, dark marks left behind after a brutal breakout finally heals.
Exactly.
Because azelaic acid is so anti-inflammatory, it is incredibly well tolerated by highly sensitive skin profiles. I love the phrasing from the research notes here. They call it Reddit's rising star ingredient.
It really is.
It is getting a massive cult following online precisely because it is rescuing people's damaged, irritated faces while still delivering results.
It is a true workhorse ingredient. It addresses tone, texture, and inflammation simultaneously without asking your skin barrier to pay a massive toll in the process.
And joining azelaic acid in the non-retinoid category is our fourth alternative, Bakuchiol.
Yes, Bakuchiol.
This one is really fascinating because it is completely plant-derived, coming from the seeds of the Bakuchiol plant. But I have to ask the skeptical question here.
Go for it.
If Bakuchiol is completely unrelated to retinoids, how can it possibly claim to do the exact same thing? Is that just incredibly clever marketing by the clean beauty industry, or is there real clinical data backing that up?
It is a very fair question to ask, but the science here is actually quite compelling. What researchers have discovered through genetic profiling is that Bakuchiol upregulates the exact same collagen-producing gene expression pathways as retinol.
Really?
Yes, it signals the skin to ramp up the production of types I and IV collagen. However, it manages to flip those genetic switches without actually binding to the retinoic acid receptors that trigger the classic retinoid irritation. It bypasses the inflammatory pathway entirely.
So it is essentially hacking the same cellular communication network, but taking a totally different, much quieter route to get there.
That's a great way to put it.
It doesn't cause that redness, peeling, or severe sensitivity to the sun. Now, the research is obviously newer compared to the decades of longitudinal data we have on tretinoin, but it sounds like the clinical trials so far show great promise for improving fine lines and firmness.
They do.
And there is a key differentiator here that is going to be huge for a specific segment of our listeners.
Crucially, unlike every single retinoid we have discussed, from Tretinoin to Adapalene, Bakuchiol is generally considered safe to use during pregnancy.
That's amazing.
Retinoids are strictly contraindicated during pregnancy and breastfeeding due to the risk of systemic absorption and developmental disruption. Bakuchiol fills a massive, highly frustrating void for people who want to maintain their collagen-stimulating, well-aging routine during that entire season of life.
It is basically nature's loophole for well-aging. So we have all these alternatives. We have the step-down retinoids, we have the acid, we have the plant extract. But let's take a step back and look at the absolute foundation of a good routine.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the source material makes a very definitive, evidence-based statement that I think people desperately need to hear.
Let's hear it.
The absolute truth is this: you actually do not need retinoids to have healthy, well-aging skin.
I feel like we should print that on a billboard. It goes against literally everything that social media, skincare gurus, and traditional beauty magazines shout at us. But the biological reality is that you do not need retinoids.
You don't.
So if a listener is deciding right now to abandon them entirely, how do they build a retinoid-free routine that still gives them those well-aging, collagen-boosting benefits? The clinical data points to a specific trio of non-retinoid tools to use instead.
Let's walk through the mechanics of that trio. First, you need vitamin C. This serves as your daytime defender.
Right.
Vitamin C provides essential antioxidant protection against environmental oxidative stress, meaning it neutralizes the free radicals generated by daily pollution and UV exposure before they can break down your existing collagen. It is both preventative against future damage and restorative for brightening the overall complexion.
Second in the non-retinoid trio, peptides. These are often referred to as the communicators of the skincare world. But what actually are they doing when they hit the skin?
Peptides are essentially short chains of amino acids, which are the fundamental building blocks of proteins like collagen and elastin.
Okay.
When applied topically, specific types like copper peptides, for example, act as messengers. They operate on a lock-and-key mechanism on your cell receptors.
So they're sending signals.
Yes.
Yeah.
They essentially trick your skin into thinking that collagen has broken down, which then signals your body's natural repair mechanisms to kick into overdrive and produce more. It is a highly sophisticated way to firm the skin from the inside out without causing any trauma or inflammation to the surface cells.
And the final member of this powerhouse non-retinoid trio is niacinamide. I see niacinamide in absolutely everything these days.
Oh, it's everywhere.
But the clinical notes specifically call out using a concentration of exactly 5%. I see serums at the store advertising 10, 15, even 20% niacinamide is more, not better.
The clinical data is very clear on this, and the 5% detail is vital. Niacinamide, which is a form of vitamin B3, is fantastic for skin barrier support, regulating sebum production and improving overall texture. However, the skincare industry's obsession with higher percentages has actually created a new wave of problems. The clinical trials show that all of the barrier-supporting, texture-smoothing benefits of niacinamide are maximally achieved right at that 2 to 5% mark.
Wow.
Anything higher than 5% acts as an irritant. It actually triggers the exact inflammatory response you were trying to soothe, increasing your risk of redness and barrier damage for absolutely no added clinical benefit.
So vitamin C in the morning for protection and brightening, peptides for targeted collagen signaling, and niacinamide strictly at 5% to keep the lipid barrier strong and the texture smooth.
That's the trio.
That is an incredibly robust, scientifically sound routine right there, completely free of the retinoid family. So what does this all mean? Let's bring this all down to reality for the listener. You are listening to this right now. Your skin is irritated, it is tight, it is flaking. You have decided enough is enough. You are officially giving up on Tretinoin. What do you literally do tonight when you walk into your bathroom?
The dermatology notes give us an exact, actionable, 4-step transition plan. Step 1 is often the hardest for people psychologically, but it is the most biologically necessary. Stop using the tretinoin entirely. Put the tube in a drawer out of sight.
So no weaning off, no dropping down to once a month, just cold turkey.
Immediate cessation. Your barrier is compromised. Applying it even once a month continues the cycle of trauma.
Got it.
Step 2. Simplify the routine. You must strip everything back down to just 3 elemental things: a gentle, non-foaming cleanser, a restorative ceramide-rich moisturizer, and your daily SPF. That is it.
No extra.
No chemical exfoliants, no vitamin C, no peptide serums. And you need to maintain this strict baseline for 2 to 4 full weeks to let the skin heal.
It is essentially a digital detox, but for your face. 2 to 4 weeks of absolute boring basics. But why that specific time frame?
It comes back to the cellular turnover cycle. A standard adult skin cycle takes about 28 days. Your barrier needs that uninterrupted time to naturally rebuild the lipid matrix and ceramides that the chronic irritation stripped away. You have to let the mortar dry, so to speak.
Okay, so a month of boring basics. It might feel tedious, but it is deeply medicinal for your face. Then what happens?
Step 3. Once your skin feels completely calm, meaning absolutely no tightness after cleansing and no stinging or flushing, when you apply a basic moisturizer, you can introduce 1 new active ingredient at a time. Whether you choose to try retinol, azelaic acid, or Bakuchiol, you pick just one.
Just one. Please do not go to the store, buy the whole trio of alternatives we just talked about, and slap them on all at once to make up for lost time. You'll just end up right back where you started.
Correct. And finally, step 4. Wait 4 to 6 weeks before judging the clinical results of that new active ingredient. Skincare is a long biological game. If you give up on a new, gentler ingredient after just 2 weeks because you don't instantly look airbrushed, you aren't giving your cellular biology the actual time it requires to restructure the tissue.
Patience is definitely the hardest active ingredient to formulate. Now, managing a routine transition like this, tracking the 4 weeks of barrier healing, remembering exactly when you introduce that one new active, monitoring your skin's response, it can be incredibly tricky to keep all of that organized in your head.
It really is a lot to juggle.
It is, which is why I want to mention that the source material for today's deep dive is actually brought to you by Skin Bliss. And they suggest that you can download the Skin Bliss app to help build, track, and manage your new skincare routine. It is a fantastic way to log your daily progress and ensure you aren't accidentally rushing the steps and re-triggering your skin.
Having a structured, objective way to track your skin's recovery phase and the slow introduction of new products can entirely prevent you from repeating the chronic cycle of irritation.
Absolutely. So let's recap the core message of everything we have unpacked today. There is no single ingredient that is universally right for everyone's biology, not even the medical gold standard.
Right.
Tretinoin fails a significant portion of people, and it is entirely okay and completely biologically normal if it failed you. Whether you decide to pivot to a gentler retinoid like Retinal or Adapalene, or if you decide to abandon the retinoid family entirely and embrace the incredible science of Azelaic acid, Bakuchiol, or peptides, your skincare journey is absolutely not over just because one famous ingredient didn't work out.
Oh, it's really just beginning.
You have so many incredible science-backed options waiting to work with your skin rather than against it.
This raises an important question, something really worth dwelling on as we wrap up today's analysis. If our individual biology is so profoundly unique, that even the undisputed medical gold standard of skincare fails for so many of us. What other universal holy grail health or wellness advice are we blindly forcing ourselves to follow when we really should be listening to the unique, individual signals of our own bodies?
Wow, that is exactly the kind of question we love to leave you with. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Go give your skin a much-deserved break, and we will catch you on the next one.
That's it for today. If you want to check your own routine for ingredient clashes, build a personalized plan, or track your skin's progress, download Skin Bliss at skinbliss.app. See you next time.